this old auto crafting will not do anymore. So let's upgrade it. By all means, this is not a complete tutorial on how this thing actually works and all the rest of it. But if you do want a full-on tutorial on how to actually get this thing up, running, and we can go a little bit more into depth about it, then make sure to leave a comment down in the comments. Let me know that you want that. And if at any point in this video you do actually find yourself you're enjoying it, make sure to smash the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Let's go. Of course, we haven't got room in our driver room, so I've already mined out another room. The multi-block structures we're going to be building today are 7 by 7 by 7, which means they're 7 wide by 7 in width and even 7 in height. Now, this room that we've mined out is absolutely perfect for that, and our first multi-block structure that we're going to be creating is the quantum computer. And the things we're going to want are the quantum computer core, the 256 million quantum computer storage, the quantum data entangler, quantum computer accelerator, the quantum computer multi-threader, and even some quantum computer structural glass. Now, what I didn't realize is these things are actually going to be quite painful to make because we actually need these singularities. Now, when we get these singularities, we're going to need the matter condenser and about 256,000 items of some sort. And the easiest thing I thought of was cobblestone. So I got to work making a load of netherite cobblestone gens. And after a little bit of time, we had like a full row of these things going, and even then, it was still pretty slow on crafting them. So I'm going to try and make it a little bit more efficient. So now we have about 3 different rows going, and this was pretty good. We were getting about 1,000 plus in there at a time. It was actually going pretty well, especially once we start putting these ultimate upgrades in there, in the pipes. It was absolutely flying, and it was doing a great job. However, it wasn't efficient enough. So after about another 15 minutes of adding even more cobblestone generators in there and making it a little bit more efficient, we managed to squeeze in a total of about 50 or so in there, all generating 64 cobblestone per tick, which is actually pretty good. We're getting probably about 2,000, maybe 2,500 per tick. So we were getting one of these singularities probably every like 5 to 10 minutes, which seems pretty good, but we can do even better. How might we do even better? Well, we're condensing these items straight into the singularity. However, we can condense this down to a matter ball, which only takes 256 items. And to make the singularities from these matter balls, we only need 64 to get one singularity. So bear in mind, to get one singularity just using the cobblestone straight up was 256,000. And if we were to go down the matter ball route, we only need 64 of these matter balls at a rate of 256 cobblestone. So if we times those two numbers together, to get a stack of 64 matter balls is only 16,384 cobblestone. And the ratio there for the cobblestone route to the matter ball route is, if we divide 256,000 by 16,384, we'll get roughly 15 to 16 per. So for every one we would get with cobblestone, we would get nearly 16 with the matter balls. So I think we'll go down that route just to save a hell of a lot of time. However, with the matter ball route, we're going to need a hell of a lot of lava as well, so I'm gonna have to go to the nether and start farming some of this lava. First, I was actually going to use modular routers. I couldn't end up getting those working, I'll be honest with you. I don't think they work in the way that I thought they were going to work. So my next option was to do dripstone, but I wanted to try and avoid this because I felt like it would take forever. However, pipes don't actually work with cauldrons, so it looks like we might have to use an item we've never used before, in being the pump from Mekanism. And this worked like a dream. And it's to my understanding that this pump can do like an 80 block radius around. So we shouldn't really ever have to replace this, because I think by the time it does that, we should have enough singularities and things to have everything that we need to make the quantum computer. So with that being said, I'm going to let those singularities generate overnight, and I'll be back with you when I have all the things needed to craft this quantum computer. And now you join me, exactly 24 hours after I've set this monstrosity up. We have about 18,800 singularities, and we also have all the things that we need to actually make the multi-block structure that is the quantum computer. So now it's time to take down this eyesore. And so we have something that looks like this, an absolute clear room where we can actually now start to build the quantum computer. So as I said earlier on in the video, this structure is a 7x7, which means it has a center point. So I'm going to find the center point of this room. And once we had found that, we could place down one of our structural glasses, and then we're just going to simply make a cube that is 7x7. We can then fill it in, and then we're going to put up the walls, which is also 7 tall. So 6 tall on top of the one we've already placed. We'll then continue this on all of the walls and even filling the ceiling, so the internal size of it should be a 5x5. However, we need to leave one gap so we can get in and out of this thing. Now, we then grab the other bits and pieces, the data entangler, the core, the 256 million computer storage, the multi-threader, and even the accelerators. And then here, it really doesn't matter what you do with them. As long as they go inside, you can put any of those 4 blocks that are on their own. So anything but the accelerators, they can go literally anywhere in the system. So I put them in the 4 front-facing corners because I thought maybe you'll be able to see them. And then you just fill in the rest of that cube with the accelerators. And then once you've done that, you can then just fill up that little gap that you left to get in and out. Fill it in, and this whole multi-block structure is actually complete. So it's as simple as that to get this quantum computer working. Although we need to give it some power. So I headed over to my big brain system that's underneath the deck, veranda, whatever you want to call it. We took the P2P tunnel signal from there and connected it to our small brain subsystem in our driver room. And then we just ran the cables from that P2P tunnel. If you don't know how P2P tunnels work, I go into a little bit of depth into how they work in the last episode. So just go over there to learn a little bit more on how to actually connect things up and stuff like that. However, it's to my understanding that this quantum computer basically allows me to request an unlimited amount of requests, basically. So if I wanted 1,000 furnaces and 1,000 smokers, this quantum computer will allow me to do both of those requests at one time. Whereas in my little system at the Japanese base, would only do one at a time. So if I wanted those 1,000 furnaces and 1,000 smokers, I'd have to wait till those furnaces are done to then request the smokers, which was just not very good. And it was also quite slow. That's just a basic understanding on how this thing actually works. Like I say, if you do want an in-depth tutorial on how this thing works and how we can set it up, then let me know down in the comments below. But this thing ain't gonna work on its own because we actually have no crafting recipes to request in our new system, which then leads me on to the next multi-block structure that we are going to build. Just going to say, I do think the quantum computer does actually work without this next multi-block structure, but you might want to make it anyway. And this multi-block structure is the assembler matrix. So we're going to want to take our assembler matrix frames and form them in a cube that is 7x7, sort of the exact same steps as the previous one. However, those squares that are open, we're then going to fill in with assembler matrix walls. However, we're going to leave a little bit of a gap so we can get in and out, because then we're going to want to place in 5 assembler matrix speed cores. Now, you can't put any more than 5 in, so slap all 5 in. Then there is 120 spare spaces within the inside of this cube. Now, we're going to divide this up into 2, so we get 60 of the matrix patterns and 60 of the matrix craft cores as well. And then once that's all filled up with all of those items, we can then just block it up. And as we open this thing, we can see we've got absolutely loads of slots. So hopefully it's just a case of running over to the Japanese base and transferring all of our recipe patterns over to our matrix assembler. And that is exactly how it works as well. So it's absolutely brilliant. However, it's starting to put them like near enough middle of the system, which I don't actually get why that is. But either way, I think it will work the same. Now, as we're transporting these recipe patterns over, it's important to say that I don't think this thing works with like furnaces, sag mills, alloy smelters, and things like that. I think we are going to have to still use pattern providers for those things and importers to import the outputted item into our system. I did try and look this up in the Applied Energistics 2 guide. There was nothing saying that it would work with anything that's like a processed recipe, whether that be a furnace, sag mill, etc, etc. So it looks like we will have to go with those pattern providers. However, I will be going for the extended ones just to give us more pattern space. We don't have to use as many furnaces, sag mills, or etc, etc. So now that all of our patterns are over, I want to try and test this with a massive crafting recipe of emeralds. Now, first I requested 2,000, but I thought that's going to absolutely blitz through that. So why not give it a few more? And we'll ask for 10,000. And it did that like it was nothing. It literally took seconds. So this thing is working like a dream. However, we only have the peasant small 1 million storage cells. I want the maximum. If we can max our quantum computer out, why not max out the storage cells as well? So when I do that and request the max storage cell, because I went ahead and pre-made all the patterns beforehand, we only need matter balls to be automated. So why not go and do that dead quick? And we have these 4 empty spaces on each side of the 2 machines. 2 on the quantum computer side, 2 on the matrix assembler side. I might as well make use of those and throw in some matter condensers, some inscribers, reaction chambers, and things like that. Anything that will be done with like patterns and sort of like crafty things, or things we want to automate that we have, sort of like the Applied Energistics auto crafting room, if you will. We'll make use of those 4 areas doing that. So the antimatter balls fall under Applied Energistics 2. So let's automate those. And while we're at it, we might as well automate the singularities as well. So to automate the antimatter balls, we're going to need a matter condenser, and we're going to do it the exact same way as we were doing it before. Now, with Cobble Gen, we just make sure it's netherite, it's got cobblestone underneath, water and lava next to it with an output on the top of the gen. I'm going to use modular routers as this time as well, again, just to keep the place clean. There's no pipes anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to send the cobblestone from the drawer to the matter condenser, making sure that it has the 64K storage component in it, and then that will just automatically fill up. The next thing we're going to do is then pull out those antimatter balls and send it into a chest, which has an importer going straight into our system. And that is antimatter balls finished, completed, done. Now, a lot of these recipes also require skystone, so we're going to quickly automate that as well. Now, the way we automate the skystone dust is by doing everything the same with the cobblestone gen. However, this time, instead of cobblestone underneath the actual gen, we're going to put skystone, and that will make us the dust automatically. Again, we won't even send that into a matter condenser. We won't send that into anything else. We're just going to send that straight into that chest. Again, it'll get imported, and it will be brilliant. Again, if you don't know what modular routers is, or you don't know how it works, there's a previous episode on that. There's also a tutorial on the channel of how, like, the basics of it works as well. It's all there. Now, for the singularities, again, I'm going to have this on its own separate automating system. So again, we're going to set up the exact same thing as we had at the bottom of this wall with the cobblestone gen. We're going to do the same thing at the top. We're going to send the cobblestones into a different matter condenser, which will then pull out the matter balls. But this time, we're going to send those matter balls into a reaction chamber, which is also getting fed lava and power, and that will make us our singularities automatically. And again, we're going to set up another modular router, pulling out those singularities, sending it into that chest, sending it straight into our ME system, meaning we have now got a way of automatic singularities. It's absolutely amazing. And now that we have all those things automated, although that some of them, like the singularities, isn't used in the 256 million storage components is automated, we're going to request some. Now, when we request some, we have absolutely everything we need. We've got everything automated, including the end dust. However, that will be the big thing that lets us down. Reason being, the SAG mill is just very slow, so we either need a way of speeding that up or using a different method. Now, I might try and go with the extended inscriber, but that is not for today's episode, unfortunately. We'll be setting up a load more processes and stuff in the next one, and hopefully in the next video we should be able to disregard that small little system that we have at the Japanese area, and this should be our main system from now on. So as you can see, we've got a few of these drives now. We've got 3 of them. I am going to end today's video off there though, because it will take a while with the end dust being ridiculously slow. But thank you all for watching today's video. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, and I will see you all again very, very soon. Goodbye.